tranquil shores of the oceans mask an underwater world with a frightening and violent past. Very real monsters once prowled these depths, then vanished, leaving behind stunning proof of their existence. Today, paleontologists discover revelations about the mysterious and nightmarish monsters that once roamed the seas. In the ocean, safety has always been an illusion. Death strikes without warning or mercy. An attack begins with lightning speed. Razor-sharp teeth shred the flesh and pierce the bone. Incredibly, these predators, like the modern shark, pale in comparison to the creatures that once terrorized the seas. Imagine a creature larger and swifter than a killer whale and more powerful than a great white shark, or an animal with a neck so long it could snatch a bird from the sky. One of these probably inspired the legend of the Loch Ness Monster. In Medicine Bow, Wyoming, about 50 miles northeast of Laramie, Robert Baca is scouring the dirt for a glimpse of an ancient sea creature called the ichthyosaur.
I want a tooth. I've lived a pure life. I deserve a tooth. Ooh, this one.
These deadly predators glided through the water and caught their prey with a toothy bite. While dinosaurs ruled the Earth from 245 to 65 million years ago, reptiles ruled the sea. Ironically, their ancestors thrived on land and stalked their prey on 4 sprawling legs, but the pressures of survival forced them to adapt to life in the sea.
The reason that these animals went from land to sea probably is simply pressure of your relatives. If you're born a reptile, if you're born a lion, you're growing up, you've got brothers, you've got aunts and uncles, all of them looking for prey, all of them looking for burrows, for a habitat, for a territory. It pushes you out. Evolution is a force which pushes outward. Well, if you're living on land, one way to go out is evolve into the water. And that's almost certainly why these guys went back into the water at the beginning of the age of reptiles. It became really common.
245 million years ago, at the beginning of what is called the Mesozoic, the age of reptiles, the continents clustered together. Nutrient-rich water encircled the Earth, creating a global ocean called the Tethys. These nutrient-rich waters were ideal for the tiniest of sea creatures, plankton. In Tethys, plankton multiplied to record numbers, filling the oceans in far greater quantities than now exist. The abundant plankton provided Mesozoic fish with an almost unlimited food supply. The fish population exploded to unparalleled levels, setting the stage for a new predator to exploit the bounty of food. For the first time, reptiles with compact bodies and powerful jaws took control of the seas. 220 million years ago, this beautiful and isolated mountain range of central British Columbia lay at the bottom of an ocean. Since 1987, Chris McGowan of the Royal Ontario Museum has been coming here each spring, searching for the first of the ancient sea monsters. While most paleontologists chip slowly through the rock, McGowan and his team use harsher methods. The ground is hard and unyielding. The rock must be removed one layer at a time. All the while, the excavation team must keep a sharp eye. A bit of unusual rock may be a significant find, a clue to the strange and fantastic creatures that swam the ancient oceans. At first glance, the fragments don't resemble much, but these weathered samples are the fossilized bones of an ancient dolphin-like reptile called the ichthyosaur.
Everybody knows about dinosaurs. Very few people know much about ichthyosaurs. Far better animal altogether than dinosaurs. They were living on the land. These guys are living in the sea.
The first fossil of a seagoing reptile was discovered in England in 1811, over a decade before the first dinosaur was introduced to the world. As it was not wholly a fish, as one observer put it, the creature was named ichthyosaur, which means fish lizard. A powerful fin tail and flippers propelled them through the water. They could achieve bursts of up to 45 miles per hour, the speed of a modern jet-powered boat. As descendants of land reptiles, they still needed to breathe air, so they had nostrils high on their snouts. Their jaws, filled with razor-sharp teeth, made them predators to be reckoned with. Some were the size of a salmon, others as large as a whale. Their most prominent feature was their large eyes, the size of cantaloupes, for hunting at twilight or in dark waters. Ichthyosaurs were the first to exploit the abundant food supply in the oceans. At first, none challenged their domination. They harvested the seas, feasting on squid and giant ammonites, a shellfish 3 feet in diameter. But ichthyosaurs may have had an appetite that also included each other.
For a few years, people debated whether this was evidence of cannibalism, but it's quite sure that these are real individuals that belong to the animal containing them. They are in fact babies, and there's one famous specimen where there's an offspring actually in the process of being born at the time of death. I think actually this was a post-mortem birth. This happens with animals after they've died. They decompose. The gas pressure in the abdomen pushes the fetus out.
Since reptiles lay eggs, evidence of live birth shows how well adapted to life in the water these one-time land dwellers had become. Though they still needed to breathe air, baby ichthyosaurs were born underwater. With each new generation, the basic design of the ichthyosaur was also beginning to change. Over 100 million years, they lost their stocky reptilian shape and evolved a sleeker, more streamlined silhouette. It's the bullet-shaped, built-for-speed design that nature reproduces with the bottle-nosed dolphin. The reason for the change was new competition. Other reptiles retreating from the land wars with the dinosaurs were moving into the oceans. They would bring with them new ways of hunting and killing. The battle for the seas was just beginning. For centuries, sailors returned from voyages with fanciful tales of sea monsters. Even Hollywood has tried to cash in on our hunger for the absurd.
It's the size of a dinosaur and 10 times more terrifying.
Behind these stories lies a grain of truth. Monsters as large and deadly as any legend prowled the seas. For centuries, the quarries of Holzmaden, Germany, have supplied limestone for pavement and construction. But they have also yielded a more valuable commodity, the fossils of more than 3,000 ichthyosaurs. 160 million years ago, a large inland sea covered much of what is now Europe. This quarry rested at the bottom of a lagoon, similar to the one in British Columbia. When a sea creature died, gases from decomposition lifted its body to the surface. The carcass would wash ashore, disintegrate, or be eaten. But every once in a while, a body sank to the sea floor. There, during a long sedimentation process, it would undergo several stages of fossilization until the bones petrified into the limestone that is now called the Poseidon slates. Over the years, the Poseidon slates of southern Germany have surrendered spectacular finds. The Museum Hauf, located in nearby Stuttgart, exhibits some of the best. They include the marine reptile plesiosaur. Bob Bacher thinks they are one of the most important creatures of the Mesozoic.
These plesiosaurs are actually the reason the age of reptiles is called the Age of Reptiles. It was these giant marine ocean-going reptiles found in the 1790s that gave people a hint that the oceans were ruled by these lizard relatives. Nearly all of the plesiosaurs and other giant reptilian monsters of the ocean are found in continental interiors, what are called cratonic seaways. These are shallow bodies of warm water that covered thousands of square miles in the middle of North America, the middle of South America, the middle of Australia. We think of continents as dry places. That's true today. In the past, that's not true. The continents were hosts, were holding up these immense areas of shallow, very rich marine habitat.
The plesiosaurs began their successful domination of the seas 190 million years ago as reptiles continued their journey into the oceans. Weighing 5 tons, about as much as an elephant, plesiosaurs had a large body crowned by a small head. Unlike ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs kept their hind legs, which may have proven an advantage in shallow water.
Plesiosaurs are what I call double penguins. Go to a zoo or an aquarium, watch penguins swimming around. They have one set of flippers, right? Just one set, one flipper on either side. They're incredibly fast and maneuverable. Plesiosaurs have flippers in the front end and the back end. They're the only animals ever to have evolved which combine the shoulder and the hips into this 4-flippered configuration. They must have been incredibly fast and maneuverable with huge eyes, very visual predators. This guy is a big-headed plesiosaur. Some of them will get heads 4 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet long, able to swallow something the size of a killer whale today, whole.
One of the most successful sea reptiles, over 24 species of plesiosaurs have been cataloged. The most distinguishing trait is the length of its neck. Those with stocky, porpoise-like necks are known as pliosaurs.
This is a short-necked plesiosaur called a pliosaur. Big one, top predator in the system, compact body with a tail with a bit of a fin for a rudder, and 4 sets of flippers like penguin flippers.
From the side, its large head looked like a crocodile's, big eyes made for sharp vision. With its streamlined body and powerful flippers, the pliosaur was a virtual torpedo, cruising and maneuvering underwater at speeds up to 35 miles an hour. 130 million years ago, in the early Cretaceous period, pliosaurs grew to incredible size. The largest was the chronosaur. This frightening species found in Australia was 50 feet long. Its head was 12 feet. Its jaws were large enough to engulf a cow. While the wide-mouthed pliosaurs grew bigger, the long-necked plesiosaurs grew longer. At 60 feet, the largest was Elasmosaurus. Its 40-foot neck was a cunning new weapon. Like a snake, it could strike out and ambush a hapless fish. Unlike ichthyosaurs, that had lost the ability to leave the oceans, plesiosaurs may have spent part of the time on land. Their bone structure suggests that they were amphibious. Their anatomy was similar to that of modern sea turtles. They had a wide, broad body over a bony, armored stomach region. With their strong hind legs, they may have crawled onto land to lay their eggs. This ability to escape to land for short periods may have been their only defense against another monster, for an even more deadly foe lurked in the sea 130 million years ago. This skull belonged to Mosasaurus maximus. The Mosasaurus was more than a match for the plesiosaurs. If there was ever a dragon, this was it. From head to tail, it was 40 feet of sinew and brawn. The culmination of millions of years of adaptation gave the mosasaurs a dreadnought design. This was not just survival of the fittest. This was survival of the deadliest. Evolutionary pressures created a monster designed for speed and killing. Bill Gallagher of the New Jersey State Museum is duly impressed by this titan of the seas.
It was the king of the ocean in the late Cretaceous seas. It was the biggest, nastiest thing in the marine realm. It was undoubtedly the Tyrannosaurus rex of the seas.
The skulls of the mosasaurs were equipped with long, pointed teeth with sharp edges. As if this weren't enough, double hinges allowed it to flex its jaws wider, momentarily dislocating them in order to bite off an enormous chunk of flesh or to swallow its prey whole. Its powerful jaw muscles could then slam shut, sealing the fate of the mosasaur's prey.
But that's not all. Inside the mouth and in the back of the head region were these series of teeth on the separate pterygoid bone. So it not only had this set of outside teeth, but positioned inside the skull was an additional set of teeth. It was sort of the alien of its time.
Powered by its long, flexible tail, it propelled itself through the water like an eel, steering with its four paddle-like flippers.
What did a mosasaur eat? Anything it wanted.
It fed on plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, sharks, and on anything else unfortunate enough to cross its path. Their flippers and tails often bear the scars of attacks from their own kind. Mosasaurs evolved a variety of sizes and shapes, from the agile 16-foot Platycopus to the intimidating Mosasaurus maximus that stretched 40 feet. The deep offered no protection for prey. The mosasaur could dive 100 feet down and more. So well adapted and highly efficient were the mosasaurs that their strange disappearance near the end of the Cretaceous has puzzled scientists. What could kill so splendid a killing machine? Some suggest a change in climate may have disrupted the food chain, but Bob Baca disagrees.
The most fascinating thing about these sea monsters, the most puzzling thing, is they're linked to the land predators. These are the top predators in the ocean, plesiosaurs. Top predators on land at the same time are dinosaurs, things like T-Rex and its ancestors. They didn't see each other. They're living thousands of miles from each other. They're not the same habitat, but they're linked like this in evolutionary history. When evolution hit T-Rex, it and all of its relatives went extinct. Evolution was hitting the plesiosaurs, and they were all going extinct. In the whole history of dinosaurs, there are 6 extinctions, major ones. Every time the land is hit, the ocean is hit. Top predators on land, top predators in the ocean. It's very hard to think of a single environmental event which will wipe out a top predator in the open ocean and a top predator living at 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 feet somewhere in a mountainous terrain. But it happened again and again and again. Climate won't do it. Change in rainfall, change in heat, change in summer drought, that won't do it either. Some people say meteorite strikes will do it. There's no evidence of meteorite strikes through most of the age of reptiles. So it has to be something else.
Oddly, it may be the smallest of sea creatures that did these monsters in. Around 75 million years ago, a mysterious catastrophe shattered the delicate ecosystem. As the continents drifted, the ocean currents changed. The plankton population crashed. As they began disappearing, so did the fish and squid that fed on them. The mosasaurs and the plesiosaurs that depended on this bounty also began to disappear. The large seagoing reptiles were starved into extinction. Their ignoble demise left room for smaller creatures to reclaim the oceans. But the oceans were not necessarily a safer place. The hunting grounds were ripe for a new killer, bigger and deadlier than any that went before it. Jaws, a great white shark held hostage a New England resort town. Measuring 20 feet, the shark was large enough to terrorize millions of moviegoers. But some 25 million years ago, a relative of the great white prowled the waters. Although the extinct shark, Megalodon, dwarfed the great white, a clear family resemblance is undeniable. While remains of these monsters have been found the world over, Dr. Michael Gottfried of the Calvert Marine Museum has been hunting shark fossils on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay.
The megalodon, or the megatooth shark, as we sometimes like to call it, grew to over probably about 50 feet in length. We estimate from the size of the teeth on the megalodon, comparing them to the size of the living type of great white shark, that it reached at least 52 feet in length and probably something over 50 tons. In human terms, that's about the size and about as big around as a Greyhound bus and about the weight of about 7 or 8 Tyrannosaurus rex dinosaurs. They're the sort of the epitome of predatory shark evolution, the biggest, baddest sharks that ever lived.
His model of this giant is 1/8 the size of the actual shark. A single tooth from the mouth of this giant shark measures 6 inches long and 5 inches at the base.
Well, megalodon teeth are incredibly sharp. And not only do they have a very sort of razor-sharp edge right along the tooth, but they're serrated like a steak knife. So not only could they slice just because of the sharpness of the edge, but they could saw back and forth with this serrated edge to cut through meat and even bone. And they found the tips of these bits of these teeth broken off in whale bones. So we know that they were capable of biting right through the skin, right through all the muscle, right into the bone.
The jaw of the megalodon spanned almost 6 feet, more than enough to swallow a dolphin or a man in one gulp. Why these monsters got so big has remained an intriguing mystery. One answer may be that they fed on large creatures such as whales and dolphins. Unfortunately, other questions may never be answered. Sharks are largely cartilage, which doesn't fossilize. Teeth and vertebrae, such as this, make up the few remains of Megalodon. It is doubtful that much more will ever be found. The limited fossil record does not reveal what happened to these giant sharks. They may have become too large and outmaneuvered by smaller, more agile sharks, or the larger animals they preyed upon could have retreated to colder waters out of the Megalodon's reach. Whatever the cause, most paleontologists believe they finally died out some 2 million years ago. Gone forever are the monsters of the Mesozoic, which fuel our nightmares and fire our imaginations. The dolphin-like ichthyosaur, the long-necked plesiosaur, and the horrific mosasaur have turned to dust. Their fragile fossils, coaxed from the ground, bear witness to their once awesome dominion under the sea. Gone too are the huge and menacing sharks that followed, the streamlined terrors whose descendants rule the seas today. The rocks hold clues to the Earth's subtle, relentless changes over eons, and to nature's constant refinement of the creatures that inhabit the Earth.